Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to introduce someone who truly needs no introduction, yet certainly deserves one. Our moderator for today's webinar is Mrs. Blessy
Hey
Decal,
Grace, you are
the
muted
Global
po.
Coordinator of International Association of First Ladies for Peace. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Welcome to the Universal Peace Federation, the International Association of First Ladies for Peace webinar. The title of today's webinar is No Peace Without Women. What are women bringing to peace processes, conflict prevention, and human security? Good afternoon. I am Blessy Gadon Dacal, the Global Coordinator of IAFLP, and it is my great honor and privilege to serve as your moderator for this session. Dr. Hakchan Moon, known as to the world as the Mother of Peace, in 2019, she established the International Summit Council for Peace, on which IFLP is an association. IFLP was first launched in November of 2019 on the island nation of Palau. The First Lady of Palau, Mrs. Debbie Remengasao, alongside 13 First Ladies from the Pacific Islands, enthusiastically participated in its inauguration, joined by leaders from other regions. 2 months later, at the World Summit 2020 in Seoul, Korea, IFLP was officially launched, creating a forum for First Ladies and women leaders could engage in peace processes. Today, IFLP has chapters on every continent. Each speaker will address the delegation for 5 minutes. We kindly ask all the presenters to respect this time frame to honor the contribution of each speaker. To begin, I am pleased to invite the President of the Universal Peace Federation Asia Pacific, Mrs. Ursula McLachlan, to convey an opening remarks. You're muted, Ms. Amala.
Madam Chiranti Rajapaksa, former First Lady of Sri Lanka, Mrs. Carolyn Hanshin, President NGO Committee on the Status of Women Geneva, Mrs. Annie C. Andana, Vice President UPF Philippines, Dr. Ludivina Boha Dekit, Head of the Peace and Human Security Institute, Western Mindanao State University, Philippines, Ms. Kayon Victoria Hiraki, Universal Peace Academy Cadet, Sun Moon University, Korea, Mrs. Blessy G. Dakal, Global Coordinator, International Association of First Ladies for Peace, Ambassadors for Peace, and respected participants from around the world. I'm deeply grateful to you for having taken time off your busy schedules to be with us here today for the first IAFLP webinar organized by the UPF of the Asia Pacific region with this important but also very challenging theme, No Peace Without Women. The International Association of First Ladies for Peace is a project of the UPF's International Summit Council for Peace. It affirms and uplifts the unique and essential role of First Ladies and women leaders in general in contributing to peace and development. Then what are the unique qualities and strengths of women that enable them to become effective and competent peace builders? First of all, it is women and their children who suffer the most abuse and violence in times of war and conflict. They have a very strong motivation to bring and maintain peace in their nation. It is for their own survival and for the well-being of their whole family. Political considerations and personal ambitions are secondary in their heart. Secondly, as a mother, A woman is trained to bring peace to her family. She has to reconcile the differences when her children fight and compete with each other. Sibling rivalry among young children is natural, and the mother learns how to make harmony in a way that both children feel loved and understood. That is the foundation for the win-win strategy in national and global politics. As long as one of the conflicting parties feels defeated and unjustly treated, the foundation for a new conflict is created, and the fighting never ends. According to the teachings of Father and Mother Moon, the founders of UPF and IAFLP, God our Creator and Heavenly Parent, endowed women with a motherly aspect of his heart that nurtures, comforts, loves, and sacrifices, and at times is ready to compromise for the sake of the greater good. With this heart, we as women can be great peace builders and find new and unique ways to overcome deadlocked situations that seem impossible to resolve. I look forward to listening to our knowledgeable speakers and the ensuing discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President McLachlan. For special message, I have the distinct pleasure of inviting Madam Shiranti Rajapaksa, former First Lady of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Let us all welcome Madam Shiranti Rajapaksa.
Good day to ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow advocates for peace. Ayubowan. We gather today to recognize the tireless effect of the International Association of First Ladies for Peace under the Universal Peace Federation. In a world grappling with the devastating impacts of war and conflicts, these women leaders are beacons of hope. Their dedication to bridging divides, promoting dialogue, and advocating for peaceful resolutions is truly inspiring. We also acknowledge the UN network of women leaders who stand shoulder to shoulder with their counterparts, pushing for a more peaceful and harmonious world. As we face the challenges of 2026, let us draw strength from these remarkable women. Their commitment reminds us that the peace is possible even in the darkest of times. Let us join hands supporting their efforts to create a world where nations can coexist in peace and future generations could thrive. With best wishes, our island nation, Sri Lanka, Ayubowan.
Thank you, Madam Shiranti Rajapaksa, for your sincere and wonderful message. We will now watch a video presentation from the Universal Peace Federation International.
The planet Earth, where we live, faces an unprecedented crisis. Natural disasters caused by climate change, military conflicts, hunger, and the refugee crisis threaten the welfare and even the survival of humankind. In this era, we must open a new path to peace and cooperation, to create a new chapter of hope and peace. In a world that is unpredictable due to division, conflict, and uncertainty, people's aspiration for peace transcends borders, cultures, and faiths. The Universal Peace Federation, which has been binding humankind together, transcendent of race, religion, or nationality, is becoming a bridge, connecting hearts to each other for a better world. The Universal Peace Federation was founded in 2005 through the lifelong dedication of husband and wife team, Dr. Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, for peace and harmony among all peoples. Based on their vision that genuine peace begins within individuals and families, then expands to societies, nations, and ultimately the entire world. UPF is sharing that vision with leaders around the globe, that humankind can be reborn as one family through interreligious, international, and interracial solidarity.
It is my tremendous honor to address this World Summit and to speak to each of you as we continue our shared pursuit of a beautiful goal, a very, very beautiful goal, bringing peace, unity, and harmony to the Korean Peninsula. Let me begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the Universal Peace Federation. I especially want to thank Dr. Hak Jahan Moon for her outstanding commitment to the cause of peace.
The challenging problems facing our planet Earth, including climate change, are no longer issues for the future. Our response today determines our future. Through its work for international dialogue and cooperation, the Universal Peace Federation has been promoting global solidarity in the quest for solutions to the problems we share as a global community, seeking practical answers to global crises.
We declare our commitment to safeguard the universal values of truth, love, justice, and peace. We declare our resolve to end all norms of discrimination and hatred and pledge to forge a new era of peace through global spiritual solidarity.
Worldwide, UPF activities are building bridges for peace. The interfaith peace movement has become a force to bind diverse faiths together. This movement, in which leaders with varied beliefs and traditions overcome their differences to achieve harmony, demonstrates that the essence of peace lies in cultivating closeness of heart. Furthermore, we support women and young people in stepping forth as key figures for peace. Educational and leadership development programs that cultivate global citizenship awareness are establishing a foundation for the new generation to achieve sustainable peace in our world. The Universal Peace Federation is forming focused alliances for world peace, leading the creation of peace solutions through cooperation. This includes the International Summit Council for Peace, where former and current heads of state gather to discuss policies and strategies to resolve crises currently facing the global village. The International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace brings together parliamentary leaders from many countries, providing a forum for the discussion of conflict resolution and establishing a legal foundation for sustainable development and peace. The Interreligious Association for Peace and Development is leading interfaith dialogue to achieve harmony among all cultures, transcending theology and traditions. The International Association of First Ladies for Peace empowers women leaders to foster harmony in their families and communities. While the International Media Association for Peace seeks to contribute its collective wisdom through promoting fair and responsible reporting that will alleviate conflict and foster understanding. The International Association for Peace and Economic Development is focusing on creating a sustainable economic model where economic prosperity and social responsibility coexist. The International Association of Academicians for Peace applies expertise and scholarship to research pathways to peace and proposing practical solutions. It is often said that peace is not just the absence of war, A peaceful world is one where justice, love, and mutual respect coexist. The Universal Peace Federation will continue its efforts to build a world of hope for future generations with the participation of all global citizens. Join us now. The Universal Peace Federation invites you to participate in creating a better world.
Wow, what an inspiring and amazing video. Our first speaker is the president of Non-Government Organization Committee on the Status of Women, Geneva. Our very own No Peace Without Women advocate. Let us all welcome Mrs. Caroline Hanshin.
Greetings, everyone, Your Excellencies, distinguished First Ladies, esteemed leaders, friends, colleagues, warmest greetings from Geneva, Switzerland. I would love to meet all of you in person. But thank you for your dedication to peace, human rights, and the well-being of your people. During my years working at the United Nations, I often felt that something important was missing in how we approach global problems. In our effort to remain neutral and diplomatic, we avoid language about love, faith, God. But when solutions ignore the deeper moral and spiritual dimensions of humanity, they often fail to address root causes. As a result, they do not last. Interestingly, in private conversations with many of the most respected diplomats and leaders, I discovered that most hold deep personal faith. Although rarely discussed in public, it anyway quietly shapes their values and their decisions. In the same way, it should be obvious that women who negotiate peace daily within their families, heal wounds in their communities, and raise future leaders and citizens are essential partners in solving global problems. Yet this truth has not been fully recognized, and we are not always convinced about it either. This is why we launched the initiative No Peace Without Women. Together with the Women's Federation for World Peace and the Universal Peace Federation's International Association of First Ladies for Peace. This is not a campaign to remove men from leadership or to blame them for the challenges we face. It is a forward-looking call to empower and mobilize women and girls to recognize their natural peace leadership and their capacity to influence the culture around them. At the same time, our first task is to bring men and our own families as partners in this work. I learned something profound about this in 2019 in Palau, as was already mentioned, during conversations with First Lady participants at the Asia Pacific regional launch of the International Association of the First Ladies for Peace. In societies with strong matriarchal or matrilineal traditions, leaders seem to share a simple but powerful insight, maybe not to be found in the textbooks. When men are given dignity and meaningful responsibility in their families and communities, peace becomes stronger, not weaker. A Buddhist monk once expressed a similar idea to me during a moment of deep reflection, actually at a UPF conference in Korea. He said that the success of gender equality in the future will depend not only on empowering women, but also on ensuring that men maintain a dignified and constructive role in society and in their families, and that is our task. No Peace Without Women, therefore, calls not only for the inclusion of women, but for a new culture of partnership. It also calls for an end of war and the settlement of disputes through force. It reminds the world that women are not only victims of conflict, as are soldiers and civilians. They are one of the greatest resources for turning it all around and building peace. We stand on the shoulders of extraordinary women who have advanced this work before us, such as the co-founder of the Universal Peace Federation and Women's Federation for World Peace, Dr. Haq Jahan. Yet many of us sense that this moment in history, though uncertain and volatile, is also uniquely prepared for transformation. The question is, can we stimulate enough of us to recognize this opportunity? We could say, this is beyond my responsibility or my capacity. Or we can recognize that the global conflicts we see around us often begin with the patterns of division and injustice, the same that grow within our communities and in our own families, and that women are already preventing and healing those patterns every day. The United Nations has clearly shown that peace agreements are more durable when women are involved. Yet in 2023, women represent still only 9.6% of negotiators, 13.7% of mediators, and 26.6% of signatories in peace processes worldwide. It helps us to understand and to know these facts, not to make us angry and resentful, but to empower us for change. International frameworks such as the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security, or even the CEDAW, Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, General Recommendations on Women in Leadership, remind us that governments have committed themselves to partnership with women and civil society. But without our informing ourselves and believing in our own leadership and the capacities of our engagement, these commitments cannot be fully realized. The No Peace Without Women initiative was launched at the United Nations in Geneva shortly after the outbreak of war in Ukraine. In response, the Women's Federation for World Peace and the International Association of First Ladies for Peace convened an urgent gathering of leaders, including representatives of First Ladies, EU envoys, former head of states, and deputy heads of state, senior UN officials. From this meeting, this initiative was launched unanimously and with great passion. Since then, regional events from the Balkans live in the Kosovo Parliament to Latin America, several gatherings at the United Nations in Geneva have expanded this movement. There is an ongoing petition to governments launched by a partner organization, that is the G100 Women, that very much aligns with this work in terms of soliciting the United Nations. Next week at the 70th Commission on the Status of Women in New York, the initiative will be presented, again with opening remarks by UN UN Executive Director Sima Bahous, hosted by the chair of the commission, governments, and a network of global civil society leaders. These developments suggest that a window of opportunity is open. But history reminds us that such moments are rare and time-bound. Like the vision that inspired the Global Culture of Peace program, we may be standing at the beginning of another turning point. What is needed now is unity of purpose, women willing to bring together their strengths, their compassion, and their courage. Because leadership in this campaign is not only for activists or feminists. It is for women who dare to lead with the lofty vision of one human family, with the sense of impending danger and a strong call to action. Young people are longing for it and seeking other campaigns, and will be seeking other campaigns if they cannot find this most righteous one. As leaders, first ladies, mothers, citizens, our responsibility is tremendous, but I think we've been prepared for it. And perhaps the message we carry today is very simple, that peace was never beyond our reach. It was waiting for us all to build it together. The efforts of past heroes and heroines did not have our capacities to communicate nor collaborate with such global institutions. I feel more confident of that seeing all of you here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Caroline Hanshin. Our second speaker is the Vice President of the Universal Peace Federation Philippines, Mrs. Annie C. Andanar. Mrs. Andanar is a distinguished public servant and active peace advocate with decades of experience in governance, legislative processes, and political organization. She is a champion of women's leadership, inclusive dialogue, and a proactive peace advocate. Let us all welcome Mrs. Annie C. Andanar.
Distinguished First Ladies, esteemed peace advocates, honored guests, sisters and brothers. A pleasant day to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon us all. It is both an honor and a responsibility to speak before the International Association of First Ladies for Peace as we celebrate Women's Month under a theme that is not only timely, but timeless. No peace without women. It is not a plea. It is a declaration. Peace is often spoken as treaties signed, conflicts resolved, and wars prevented. But true peace is deeper than diplomacy. True peace is nurtured in families, shaped in communities, and sustained in nations. It is stability, justice, opportunity, and dignity sustained over time. And that kind of peace does not happen by accident. It is designed. It is negotiated. It is protected. At the heart of this design, at the heart of this protection, are women. We gather today not to speak of women merely as victims of conflict, not only as survivors of hardship. We speak of women as architects of peace. In 2000, the United Nations Security Council adopted UN Security Resolution 1325, formally recognizing the essential role of women in conflict prevention, peace negotiations, and post-conflict reconstruction. It affirmed what history had already shown. When women participate meaningfully in peace processes, peace agreements are stronger and more sustainable. Across Southeast Asia, we see this truth in action. In the southern Philippines, women served as negotiators and peace panel members in the process that led to the creation of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Their presence helped ensure that human rights, community protection, and inclusive governance were embedded in the agreement. Across Indonesia, Myanmar, and Thailand's Deep South, women-led organizations combined to sustain dialogue where formal negotiations face challenges. They build trust at the grassroots level. They heal divisions quietly but powerfully. And this is not unique to our region. From Liberia to Colombia to Northern Ireland, women have mobilized across political, religious, and ethnic lines to push societies away from violence and toward negotiation. The evidence is clear. When women are present at decision-making tables, peace is more likely to endure. Why? Because women understand continuity. We think in generations. We plan beyond election cycles. We build with the future in mind. Peaceful women are not silent women. Peaceful women are powerful women. Power does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it is the calm voice in a tense room. Sometimes it is the strategic mind that sees beyond immediate conflict toward long-term harmony. Sometimes it is the courage to lead with dignity instead of dominance. Women lead collaboratively. We lead relationally. We lead with emotional intelligence and strategic foresight. This is not softness. This is matured strength. As First Ladies and women leaders, we occupy a unique space. We stand beside presidents and prime ministers, but we also stand before communities. We are bridges between policy and people. That position carries influence and responsibility. Let us use that influence not symbolically, but strategically. Let us ensure that peace panels, legislative bodies, and diplomatic negotiations reflect the intelligence and insight of women. Let us mentor young children. Let us mentor young women, not to ask for space, but to confidently claim their rightful place in leadership. Let us protect and support women who serve as peace builders on the front lines of fragile communities. Peace is strongest when women are integrated as equal partners, not included as an afterthought. We must redefine peace, not as the absence of conflict, but as the presence of balanced leadership between women and men. There is no peace without women, because without women, leadership is incomplete. This Women's Month, let this not be about recognition alone. Let it be about our momentum. Momentum towards inclusive governance, momentum toward intergenerational leadership, momentum toward a world where women's voices are not exceptional, but expected. When women stand in their full authority, calm, capable, and courageous, peace is not fragile. It is formidable. And so let us move forward, not as women asking to be heard, but as leaders who already are. Thank you. Maraming salamat po. Terima kasih. Peace be upon us all during these turbulent times. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Annie Andanar. Our third speaker is the head of Peace and Human Security, Institute, Western Mindanao State University, the Philippines, Dr. Ludivina Borja Dekit. Dr. Dekit is a licensed social worker, and currently the head of the Peace and Human Security Institute at the Western Mindanao State University in Zamboanga City, the Philippines. She was born and raised in Basilan, a province long affected by armed conflict, where she grew up learning the realities of violence and survival. Let us all welcome Dr. Ludivina Borja Dekit.
No peace without women. I remember the day I was taken. It was not dramatic like in the movies. There was no sound check, no warning, just a sudden realization that my life was no longer in my hands. In captivity, time moves differently. You count breaths, you memorize sounds, you pray not only for survival, but for meaning. Even though I was released the next day, it was the most terrifying experience of my life. And during that time, in that space between fear and faith, I made a promise to myself. If I survive this, I will dedicate my life to building the kind of peace that no one can steal. Today, I'm here with you, not as a victim, but as proof that when women survive conflict, we do not merely endure, we transform pain into purpose. I speak before you today as director of the Peace and Human Security Institute at Western Mindanao State University in the Philippines, a researcher driven by evidence, a peace advocate forged in struggle, and above all, a woman who has lived the cost of conflict firsthand. I come from Basilan, a land once marked by decades of armed conflict, pain, resilience, and hope. A land where mothers weep for children lost to violence, where students dream of peace, and where communities are rebuilding what war has tried to break. But I also come here as someone who survived abduction, who knows what it means to have peace taken away, to be held captive by fear, and to find strength again during trauma. That experience did not weaken my faith and my belief. It ignited it. It taught me that peace is not merely the absence of war. It is knowing dignity, safety, and justice in our bodies, our communities, and our futures. Why no peace without women is not just a slogan. When we say no peace without women, we echo a powerful truth recognized by advocates and institutions worldwide. Women are not optional actors in peace. We are essential. Across history and in every culture, women have been nurturers of community, mediators at the family table, builders of trust in fragmented worlds, and translators of survival into strategy. But we also know that despite this, women are too absent from formal peace tables while bearing the deepest consequences of conflict. In Basilan, I watch families grapple with displacement, poverty, and the emotional scars of conflict. I saw women take on invisible labor, caring for children, keeping food on the table, and holding communities together when formal systems failed. As a researcher, I have documented these realities. I have walked with pathways of trauma and resilience, situating them within frameworks like the Women, Peace, and Security Agenda, a framework that reminds us peace cannot take root if half of humanity is left on the margins. As director of the Peace and Human Security Institute at WIMSU, I work with educators, students, government, interfaith partners, and civil society to translate research into action, building programs that empower women to lead, learn, and transform conflict contexts into spaces of dialogue. What women bring to peace building? Women bring invaluable strengths to the work of peace. We listen deeply, not just to words, but to pain. We connect, weaving networks where nothing existed. We sustain, stepping in where systems leave gaps. We transform, turning survival into strategy, trauma into service. And yet, our voices are still underrepresented in most decision-making spaces. That we must change, not because it benefits women alone, but because it sustains peace for all. So what does this conference mean for us? Not just as participants, but as agents of change. Today, I call on all of us, scholars, practitioners, policymakers, grassroots advocates, to commit to amplifying women's voices in every negotiation room. For example, by institutionalizing mandatory representation of women in local peace councils and formal peace negotiation panels, ensuring they hold decision-making roles rather than observer status. Another, investing in women-led research and peace programs by establishing dedicated research grants and community funds that prioritize projects led by women peace builders, particularly those working in conflict-affected communities. Another, ensuring women are co-creators of security and not just survivors of insecurity by building or including women in the design and monitoring of local security plans, disaster response strategies, and community safety mechanisms. teaching peace education at every level, from schools to universities, by integrating peace and global citizenship education modules into teacher education programs and general education curricula across disciplines. And last, transforming policies into real practices that protect women and communities alike by creating local monitoring bodies that track the implementation of gender and peace policies and publish annual accountability reports accessible to the public. All these discussions, stories, and shared experiences remind us that peace is not an abstract concept confined to conference halls or policy papers. It is lived in communities, rebuilding after conflict, in classrooms shaping young minds, and in the everyday courage of women who refuse to be silenced. If we truly believe that women are central to sustainable peace, then our conversations today must move beyond reflection and into responsibility. As I close, let me tell you this. I survived captivity. My community survived conflict. And women around the world continue to survive systems that exclude them from power. But survival is not the goal. Transformation is. Let us be the generation that refutes symbolic inclusion. Let us be the leaders who demand structural change, because peace negotiated without women is fragile. Peace built with women is lasting. There is no peace without women, and we are not asking for permission anymore. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story.
Thank you, Dr. Ludivina Borja-Dekid, for your heart-touching story. For our commentator is Miss Kahyon Victoria Hiraki, is a cadet of Universal Peace Academy, Sunmoon University, Korea. Miss Kahyon Hiraki, your floor.
Thank you for all the inspiring remarks. Listening to each of the speakers, I was reminded that peace is not something we can take for granted, because it doesn't happen by accident. And peace requires people who are willing to think ahead, to take care, and to work together. And when individuals with a conscientious mind, unite under this shared vision of peace, hope arises for a future, and it becomes the building blocks of lasting peace. And I truly felt that this conference today is indeed that kind of gathering where people are willing to, make dreams into a reality. And I was especially moved by the way we highlighted the role of women in peace building. So I really appreciate how we were described, as this architects of peace. Because when we think of architects, they don't just build randomly, right? They have a clear vision and a clear blueprint. They plan, they collaborate, and they build structures designed to last long, to bring shelter, safety, and joy to all. And in the same way, I believe too that women bring future-oriented thinking into peace processes. So we have this ability to connect people and build bridges, not only between politics and communities, but between hearts, perspectives, and shared values. And today's discussion also reminded me that peace involves courage to engage in negotiations, to listen across differences, and to choose understanding over division. I feel like we are often at a crossroad where we must decide whether to judge or to understand, or to divide or to unite. And I feel like true peace begins when we choose to see one another, not as enemies, but as partners and cooperators in building something greater. And I believe women have that strength to choose unity, to embrace, to reconcile, and to bring peace even amongst those enemies. And they also readdress the meaning and importance of peace. Peace is not just the absence of conflict, nor something that occurs by an accident. Peace begins in the presence of balanced leadership, leadership that helps communities feel safe, heard, and valued, and leadership that takes responsibility. And I believe women have that kind of leadership role in designing and constructing real peace. And this conversation also challenges us to shift, our perspective. Women are not just meant to endure hardship. Women are not only survivors, but we are all leaders, right? Women are partners in building security and peace that belongs to everyone. And the goal is not just to survive, but to help transform our communities. It's about moving from, surviving peace to sustaining peace. And I think that's something all of us can actually reflect on, not just in big situations, but even in our everyday lives. And I hope we do not leave inspired only for today, but feel, committed. And that's the feeling I get from this conference too, committed to choosing dialogue when divisions feel much easier. And also committed to, designing peace in our families, our workplaces, our communities, and even in our nations. Because peace is not an abstract idea, but it's a daily decision that we make. And women are the architects who design with that kind of courage, right? Build with compassion and lead with integrity. And finally, speaking as a young person, I want to express my sincere gratitude for all the remarks and wisdom that was shared today. Your experiences and your dedication do not just impact the present, they shape the mindset of the future. So by showing up and by speaking with conviction and by sharing your wisdom, everyone here are mentoring the next generation as peace builders. And as the youth, we are listening and we are learning a lot. And we are very, very inspired to continue building for this peace. So thank you so much for inviting me and for all the amazing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kahiyon Victoria Hiragi. Now let's proceed to the question and answer session. Someone raise hand. Caroline, did you raise your hand?
No, I didn't mean to actually.
Okay. Okay, so there's one question from participant. What are the causes for the low representation of women as peace negotiators or mediators? How could this be reversed? Maybe Caroline can answer?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Blessy?
Okay. What are the causes for the low, LOW, low representation of women as peace negotiators or mediators? How could this be reversed?
Well, yeah, that is, of course, there are many, many reasons for that, depending upon the situation. I think one that most, that used to really astonish me actually is to realize that in the case of real conflict-ridden areas, actually those in calling for peace, those that were invited to the peace table were almost invariably those who had started the wars, actually, huh? So how can we expect peace to come out of that? And so I don't know if there's any one solution, but I have seen heroic efforts. In Geneva, I've seen women traveling from the DR's Democratic Republic of Congo or from Eritrea and Ethiopia coming to Geneva so desperate to reach their governments, which they could not do in their nations. They just weren't, maybe this, I'm not saying current governments, this was also in the past. But I think that the solution is our communicating among ourselves and reminding ourselves that we have these capacities that we all just spoke about. I mean, we are all convinced for sure, but we have to bring these same ideas to current leaders, and we have to prove ourselves trustable in every way. We have to prove ourselves that we can be good partners. We are not, civil society is not always a good partner with governments. So there are many, many steps along the way, but just this kind of information sharing, that like we have today, and the activities that we're doing, especially working with young people. I think I have programs in Geneva at the UN 5 times a year where we are training young students and young graduates, young professionals, to come to the United Nations and to become a part of those processes, because we need to be present. We need to. I loved what was said before. Someone said that it was we don't have to be invited. We don't have to be persuaded. We have to show up, and we have to have our talking points clear, and we have to be, humble to one another, and which is, I think, a typical way women lead actually in families, that it is not a dominating, I am the leader kind of leadership, but we are together the ones that can make this happen. So maybe I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Mrs. Carlin, for that answer. Now, the question goes to Dr. Dekit. Someone asked, what kind of spirit and how Dr. Dekit able to convince her abductor to release her from the captivity without any harm?
Yeah, thank you for that question. As mentioned during the introduction, I am a social worker by profession, and I have been advocating peace, been doing development work for almost 20 years. And I was actually at the height of my development work in 2008 when we were kidnapped. I was actually with other humanitarian workers. I've spent years listening to people whose lives were shaped by hardship and violence. And I think that training helped me see the person in front of me, not only as an abductor, but as a human being shaped, no, by circumstances. And I was told that there were community people who actually helped, who spoke to this armed group to release me, because I didn't have that time any sense of danger, and I would leave the communities at night, no, as long as I still have something to do, so I would stay. So I'd like to believe that it was actually my work, my relationship with the community that helped me, because my other colleagues had to pay a ransom, so they were released after 2 months in captivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dekit, for that answer. And now, final question to Madam Andanar. Okay, the question is, don't we need men for peace as well, or only women can bring peace?
Thank you for that question, because I am a believer in the paradigm shift that we should already be thinking of after many decades of gender equality. I am sorry, but yet I do not apologize to my fellow women who think that we are equal with men. We are partners. Men and women alike must join hands to commit to having sustainable peace. Sustained peace in our homes, sustained peace in our communities, and sustained peace among and across nations. We need everyone, both men and women. So let's get past gender equality, please. Number 2, let's get past women's sexual politics. Women must lift other women so that together we can have a common voice together with our men so that we can achieve sustainable peace.
Hey, thank you so much for all the questions and the answers and sharing your ideas. Now, I would like to express our gratitude to the technical team. Without you guys, it's not possible for us to organize this webinar. So to our speakers, once again, thank you very much for being the star of the day. And we officially conclude the program. And at this point of time, I would like to invite all the speakers, distinguished guests, and participants of our group photo. And a special recognition. So Mrs. Grace from UPF, the UPF Chair of Myanmar, and Dr. Linda Duong, Oneness of Global Private Limited founder and director in Australia, and Madam Sujata Tiwari. Thank you so much for coming. Now for the group photo, everyone, give your best smile ahead. 1, 2, 3. We would like to request everyone to on their video if possible. Okay. One more. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been a wonderful audience. It has been my absolute pleasure to serve as the moderator of this session. Thank you very much for being a part of the significant UPF and IAFLP webinar. Thank you so much.
We look forward to seeing you next month. We have another webinar and we'll let you know the details.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.